Hey guys, so I actually wanted to make another Wolcen video, and you may ask why the hell Wolcen? No one cares about Wolcen anymore. Path of Exile is starting new league soon, but the only reason why I wanted to do is because of this skill. This skill, for some reason, gives me some nostalgic feelings. Back from the days when I was playing with the Sega and like Contra Force games, for some reason these rockets just feel so satisfying to me. So I wanted to briefly talk about this build, and the recent patch has been posted on Friday. It is 108, and people were freaking out because they can only make one patch a week, and it was Friday night and there was no patch, and then eventually they posted the patch. The patch didn't really change much, it's just a couple fixes. Finally, minions, you can actually see your minions HP when they start taking damage, but other than that there's nothing too much. But I still been wanting to make a video about this build, show what this build do, how I build this build, and this is actually basically a completely immortal build. This is probably gonna get nerfed in the future. I'm not sure how many people are actually utilizing this thing, but as you can see I have 3 golems, and each golem has the skill modifier which says a portion of the damage received by you is transferred to the summon, and each of these 3 golems receive some of the damage from me into them. So I am basically immortal, and near the end of the video you're gonna see me tanking level 115 fully buffed boss, and I'm taking no damage, nothing. I may be taking a bit more damage in higher levels, but I haven't really tried higher levels. The highest that I unlocked was 115. That's when you start getting the highest tier mods on items. You may still want to push to like 160 when you disable some lower tier mods, but if you can farm 115, that's enough to start getting good items. So the mod is very satisfying, and the skill that I'm using is Havoc Orb. Is it? Yeah, Havoc Orb. So normally it looks like this. It just... Actually no, that's not how it looks. Normally it looks like this. Just throws like a grenade. But once you get glory or to mankind, it starts shooting rockets. And once you get baptism by hail, it shoots a bunch of rockets. You can also, by the way, you can also get extra projectiles, but it doesn't seem to be that great with the baptism by hail, because it just adds 1 extra projectile at the end. And if you're already shooting like 6 and you get extra projectile, you're gonna shoot 7, and then if you add another one, you're gonna shoot like 8 or 9, whatever it's the maximum limit. It doesn't seem that great. And if you don't pick baptism by hail, you can of course add extra projectiles. Where is it? You're basically gonna shoot it like in a cone formation, but it's not as good, and your rage consumption is gonna be much higher than with this barrage of projectiles. And I'm basically building a crit build mostly. I'm gonna show the passive skill tree a bit later. My current tooltip DPS is only around 11,000 average. Well, not DPS, but 11,000 average. Now my crit chance is 60% and crit damage is 343%. I can get better weapon. I'm still using 2-socket pistol, and the catalyst is required to have golems, and golems are just giving insane mitigation. And it's just not just golems, but also passive skill tree gives me a lot of mitigation the way I build, and I think most of the builds are gonna be building very similarly. You're basically taking similar things for mitigation, for damage, like Time Weaver for damage. Probably all the hit builds are gonna be taking it, because it just doubles your damage after 1.5 seconds. And then for mitigation, you're probably gonna want Dire Juncture. I'm not sure if this works well with the golems, and does degen work with the golems, or does it only work for hits. But I wish actually I would have more room on my skill bar, because there are more things that I would want to add, like Bulwark of Dawn could give me flat sacred damage, to my hits, and of course heal, but I don't really need heal anymore. And by the way you get free golems, you basically get a duplicate skill from your town management, from NRAC laboratory. I think you only need to unlock it once. I don't remember doing it twice. I think you unlock it once, and then you have to go to this NPC, select the skill, and then you click duplicate. You get duplicate, but you're gonna need to level that duplicate skill. You basically get 2 duplicates for that skill. And yeah, for the golems you want mainly this one, generational grief. A portion of the damage you received by you is transferred to summon. I'm not sure if this is bugged or not, and is it working in like it's intended or not, but this is insane way of mitigating damage, and the sooner you can get this, the tankier you're gonna become, and the more flexible your passive skill tree may become, because you may drop some of mitigation nodes from the passive skill tree, like what is called tenet points. Maybe you don't need that anymore, I'm not entirely sure. The rest doesn't really matter. The rest I just got movement speed, but whatever, like it literally doesn't matter. Maybe generate more threat is useful. Maybe enemies are gonna be attacking your golems instead of you, more likely. But whatever, you may even want to get like a bit more offensive golem, which is the this one with the dual wield and leaping attacks. But it does seem to be pretty tank. I mean, my tankiest golem currently has 680,000 health, and that's not all. This is not correct actually. It's not showing all the minion scaling things. From the passive skill tree, I just realized that it's pretty difficult to explain the passive skill tree, but I'm gonna include a link in the description. It's gonna bring you to the website, to the planner website basically, and you're gonna be able to see my chosen passive skills. And but basically you want crit, so you go assassin, then you want some minion nodes, you want your minions to not die, so basically you take maybe either this or maybe some of these. You don't really need more than one of these to make your minions tank enough. They may still die from time to time, but very rarely. Then of course you want with the rage regen. You don't really need willpower that much, and you're gonna mostly use, in order to dump your willpower, I mean once you keep spamming the skill, you're gonna gain a lot of willpower, which you're not gonna need, but you're gonna lose it while clearing enemies. But you're still gonna need to dump your willpower, and you can either use ether jump to quickly dump your willpower, or just use the flask. Alastor, you get this one for crit, for more attack speed after you do crit. This one, Siegebreaker, for a lot of resistances. I'm not sure if I still need this, but if you're taking that and that, you want your body armor and helmet to be pure resistance ones. That's how you double your resistances from those items. Then a bit of things like utility, dodge goes through enemies, very useful, so you don't get stuck behind enemies. You get attack speed. Attack speed is also needed because you don't want to be shooting slowly. You want to just unload all the projectiles as fast as possible and move on to next target. Then what I have, the 10 points, like I said, I'm not sure if it's still needed, so we may actually drop these points. You do one global each unless you have it on some of the items. And then Time Weaver is very important. It basically doubles your DPS against bosses. Sorry, not Time Weaver, this thing from Time Weaver. And then this one, if you don't take too much damage, you may not need this, especially if you got 3 golems. If you still got 2 golems, you're definitely gonna want this, but I didn't really do much testing with 3 golems. I just recently got the Fat Golem and became immortal, but you may not need this anymore, because if you take this and someone knocks you back, you're gonna knock back twice, which is very annoying, so you may not want this. I got this one because I am actually using stasis. Stasis is very important, by the way, and you get stasis from ether damage, I believe. Another thing, you're gonna need this thing unless your main weapon hits do the most ether damage. You don't want other ailments doing more than ether damage. or if you take this one, you can have two kind of ailments. So my current shots do mostly ether damage and lighting, besides physical, but physical doesn't apply ailment, and you can only apply one ailment, one different ailment per hit. So when you get, what is it called, when you get, wow, the names in this game, basically when you get an additional ailment, you can apply two ailments per hit, and you want stasis. The other ailment doesn't really matter. Ah, there we go, this is better to see. You can see that I'm doing a lot of lighting damage and then ether damage after the physical. So if I could lower my lighting damage and have more ether damage, I wouldn't need that node to apply two ailments, but you definitely want stasis. Stasis is the most important in terms of doing damage. Stasis ailment itself is pretty weak, it doesn't do much, it's reducing enemy movement speed, but it does enable things like this one, which basically doubles your DPS, and this one gives a bit of damage. By the way, this is not like in Path of Exile, these are all the same modifiers. The enemies take increased damage is the same as you get increased damage. This is very poor design, and yeah, you know, Wolcen needs a lot of balance. And things like that, 4% increased damage for each nearby enemy within 4 meters radius is just 4% increased damage. It's not like 4% more impact Path of Exile, which is very sad. But you do still want this, because if like 20 enemies, you instantly get 20. You get a lot of damage. Math. On the items, the trial belt is, I would say, extremely important. You don't need it, but without it you're gonna suffer. And the trial belt gives you inflict mark of impurity, and mark of impurity, when you learn it and skill it up, it's also gonna use your skill modifiers from that skill, and it does not need to be in your skill bar. It's just gonna copy whatever mark of impurity modifiers you have and apply it. It does have the cooldown, so it's not gonna bypass the cooldown, but you don't need it. And what I'm using is, this one is probably the most important. Mark of impurity spreads to surrounding enemies on death of the target. So you basically hit the target, apply mark of impurity, it dies, spreads onto other ones, and mark of impurity makes enemies take increased damage. You also get the crit damage node, well, because it's mainly crit, and then this one is for basically clear speed, because enemies explode. Which actually does a lot of damage if there's like one tough enemy and a lot of weak enemies. Because those explosions are gonna be based on enemies' max health. You can use it manually, maybe you don't need the Dust Shroud for movement, but it does give a lot of movement speed, and it's kind of pleasant to do this. You may use Mark of Impurity manually, and then you wouldn't not need this belt, because it's unique. You can't really like specifically farm for it, you either randomly get it or you don't. And the rest, very important, you do want as much rage and willpower cost decrease as possible. You can get them on your gauntlets, on your shoulders, and I believe that's, yeah, and that's it. On your shoulders and gauntlets basically. And you also do want transfer time decrease between willpower and rage, which allows you to, you see this kind of dark bar from rage. If I did not have enough decreased, what's it called, transfer time decrease between willpower and rage, this dark bar would fill everything, and I would not be able to fill my rage fast again, or like dump willpower fast enough. So you do want that. You get it on the helmet, on the body armor, and I believe you can get it on pants. I'm not entirely sure. On your jewelries, on your amulets and rings, you do want as much flare damage as possible. Just be sure that you don't get too much different ailments, because remember, you need ether damage the most. Your catalyst doesn't really matter, just try to get the catalyst with the least negative transfer time decrease between willpower and rage. You basically want as close as possible to 0%. There is a unique which has no downside, because this is negative is downside basically. And just you want crit damage. On the Havoc Orb, obviously you want Baptism by Hail, you want Glory to Mankind, to shoot rockets, and then many rockets, and then just damage, crit damage, crit chance, just generic damage, and AoE. You can also get mini explosions at the end. Not sure what would I get rid of. So if you take this, each rocket on explosion is gonna release like a cluster of explosions, but it doesn't seem to be working that great. You see, it spread out a lot and it doesn't overlap very well on a single target, so it's mostly for the clean speed, but then again, I wouldn't say that it's worth it. I would rather just do more damage. It's not that great, and it also lags you a bit more. So yeah, probably not gonna be doing Wolcen videos anytime soon because Path of Exile starts, Path of Exile New League starts very soon, and I'm gonna be playing Path of Exile again finally. And Wolcen is gonna be on hold for another couple months probably until they finally fix the game and make it more interesting. So yeah, for now, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.